Middle School. This is the North NATV School District Community Connection Seminar tonight. My name is Heidi Stark, and I'm the principal here at Middle School. But you are from all over the district, and I want to thank you for coming because I think you are going to find this to be a very timely and valuable session. But you must know that because you took time out of your busy schedule to come. I'd like to introduce you to Jeff Longo. Jeff is the coordinator of the program, and he'll get us started tonight. Thanks for coming.
Good evening. Thank you, Mrs. Stark. I am one of the coordinators for the program. This is being put on by the Student Assistance Program, part of the Pupil Personnel Team, and I'm proud to be here, happy to be here, and glad that you guys are here tonight. I'm going to be introducing the video we're going to be playing here in a moment. This is about 11 or 12-minute segment of a 30-minute documentary that the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids has put out recently. So you're going to get a taste of the video, and we'll talk certainly more about it as we go along. The video is entitled Breaking Points, and there are some handouts that you got, hopefully on your way in, that these 3 points here, you have all that information. I highly, highly encourage you to navigate and become familiar with the general website, Partnership for Drug-Free Kids. It's just drugfree.org. Many, many excellent resources there. And if you want to watch this documentary that you're going to see a part of this evening, if you want to see the full feature of that, you're also able to view it there. They do ask for a $5 donation, but it's an excellent video. And I'm going to play it right now. This will kind of set the stage for you.
In America, we're expected to work really hard, we're expected to be the best.
My mom and my dad are like nothing below a C.
You have to have a good GPA. And then there's all these extracurriculars on top of that.
List all the things that you do, like tell us why you're the best.
I mean, I've done ice skating, I've done fencing.
Come to school, go to football, do my homework, go to bed.
When I'm on the basketball court, in the back of my head, I'm always thinking, this could be my scholarship.
If you're not the best, then you're like failing.
You can't fail in high school because you won't recover.
People all my life have been telling me, you have to get into a good college, you have to go to at least this college.
College applications is a bloodbath. I didn't get into Berkeley, but she did. I'm worse than her, even though that might not be the case.
I remember having these screaming fights with my dad where he was like, you have to apply to Princeton.
Are you gonna become a doctor? Are you gonna be a lawyer?
I just start getting really panicky. I get very upset with myself. So if it's a triangle, you have sleep, grades, and friends. You have to pick 2 of them. You can't have all 3.
We're not these unlimited creatures that can take as much stress as possible and just keep it coming. There's like a breaking point.
It was a lot of pressure to do well in school, and I just could not keep up with the kids at all.
There's a certain point when people are like, I'm just gonna get ADHD pills, seems to work, and that's their solution to it.
Weed at some point became kind of outdated, but if you could get like Adderall, like, oh wow, you have Addy, that's so cool.
When SATs rolled around, one of the #1 questions was, did you use Adderall?
Everybody's pretty open about it. It's not like a no drug.
I just ended up buying Adderall from a friend in the bathroom. Like I bought it was like what, like $4 a pill? It's like limitless. I felt like I could do anything at all.
So my doctoral dissertation was an experiment where I shadowed 5 kids at a very high-achieving public high school for a year. And I was looking for what was working, right? What can we learn from these kids in this great high school to pass on to others? And instead, I saw kids who were getting ulcers from stress, and kids who were cheating and worrying about their grades, and kids who were taking someone else's prescription for a stimulant, Ritalin, Adderall. Why is all this happening? It's happening for a reason. One is we had a population boom happen. And so if you want to go to college in the United States, there are actually more students applying to college than ever before. And that's why the pressure to succeed in a certain narrow way, to get the grades and test scores to get into college, is so severe for kids. They feel like it's sort of a cheat or be cheated world. And if other people are doing that, I don't want to be the one to lose out because the stakes are really high.
If you had to say in a sentence or two how Lear has changed, that's your last task right now. In a nutshell, kind of bringing all this back together. For you, how has Lear changed at this point?
I think high school is super stressful. Being a senior, I'm in multiple AP classes, which have a lot of extra homework. So I'm having about 4 or 5 hours of homework every night, in addition to all of my college applications. Okay, so I have to take the essay during 5th, and then the test during 3rd. I'm screwed. Hello. Yeah. I'll see you later. There's also the social aspect. Everything is online. It's very important to be present online and look cool and have your entire life there, but it brings about a certain amount of stress. And I also don't want to let anyone down. I'm president and vice president of multiple clubs on campus, so I have all these responsibilities, and so I just get overwhelmed very easily and super stressed out because there's so many things to do and just not enough time to do them.
I think a large portion of our American teenagers are under a lot more stress than they were 20, 30, and 40 years ago.
What is it about this?
Once upon a time, you were happy if students met the math requirement, maybe got through Algebra 2 or pre-calculus. Now there's almost this certainty that if you don't get through calculus, preferably advanced placement calculus, you really haven't completed a rigorous course of study. The intense pressure on getting into a brand name, top tier, or upper 1/3 college has really changed the dynamic of the high school experience. So I think parts of the academic program are very unhealthy, especially if you take them in large doses.
What's interesting is the problem of academic stress is really a systemic issue between lots of different players and stakeholders. So on the one hand, you point the problem at the schools themselves and you say, look, they're giving way too much homework, they're overloading the kids, there's too much pressure to take more college level courses than a typical college student might take. And then you have to look at the kids. A lot of it is caused by their peers putting pressure on them to reach this ideal goal.
I do a lot of work on the weekends. I try to get ahead as much as I can on the weekends. So I don't have a lot of time for friends because I'm so busy. So it's like I'm missing out on some of the fun aspects of high school because I'm so stressed out about finishing everything else.
Social media is a really big component in this entire picture. So one, social media reinforces that everything is possible. So people are posting about their good grades and they're posting about getting into college, but they're also posting about going out and having fun and going to the parties. And it makes it seem that a student can have it all.
The sense of a lack of reality happens. Everybody gets likes on Instagram, everybody's happy. That's not the real world. So they're seeing only a very distorted view of the world and of their peers, and that can cause depression and anxiety. I'm missing out, I'm not fitting in, everyone else is happy and I'm not. On the other hand, the parents are really a source of stress for kids in this systemic problem as well.
So I only get the car on Tuesday?
Yes.
Did you get your homework done?
Everything except for my Spanish and Lear. And I didn't do my Spanish because I didn't want to speak out.
Did you get your homework done? No.
No, it's almost done.
All right, it's Sunday night as well. We were supposed to talk college, do a status check on the applications.
I'm working on my essays.
I know you turned in essays to Miss Wynn.
I didn't get them back yet. I'll have them back tomorrow or Tuesday.
What's your gut feeling on how that's going to go?
Terribly.
It feels like an inhuman process because we're asking her to do too many things in a short amount of time. So should we set some time aside to this week to look at them?
Probably.
Do you want me to look at them? You still have to do, I don't know, 20.
17.
You have to do 17. I was just making a random number up. 17. You have to do 17 essays. Okay. I find that to be a little stressful. The tension that Lucy and I have is that this isn't my thing to knock out and get done. I just have to sit by and wait. And I think that's frustrating and hard. As a parent, I find it to be just as stressful, and yet I can do nothing about it.
You combine all of these things together, this punishingly difficult set of courses, all of these activities, friendships and relationships, your family dynamic, and you're just inviting an unhealthy level of stress to come into the world of adolescence. You're creating an environment where all kinds of unhealthy things breed.
Playing bass is really cool. I'm very used to learning in an academic environment, more fact-based, and things are going to be tested on, and it's just different to learn about an instrument and become good at something like that. It's a unique process. That was bad. I have a learning disability, and so I take Adderall every day. I take a regulated dose that I get from a doctor.
You can see the strike-throughs. That's just for clarity and eliminating sort of the passive voice.
So should I just add that sentence in there? Will that fit fine?
Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is a psychiatric disease that appears with inattention and hyperactivity.
The evaluations revealed that my processing speed was severely delayed. With the help of a specialist, I learned how I absorb information differently, and also
It's a condition that, if not properly treated, can result in poor impairment in education and social difficulties.
That also started to impact the way you felt about learning too, because it begins this sort of struggle.
Among the most frequent medications utilized for the treatment of ADHD are methylphenidate, Ritalin, and amphetamine, Adderall. They have the capacity to amplify the signals from a chemical that we call dopamine that is very important not just in regulating attention, but also in driving motivation.
my excitement for learning began to wane. I have friends who will say they feel like they're really bad test takers, or it's really hard for them to remain focused, and so my friends ask me for it. There's so much pressure, and every year it gets harder and harder to get into these schools, and it's sad that stakes feel so high in high school so that people are turning to drugs to improve their performance, but I think it's unfair for people to abuse things that other people need.
The number of prescriptions for stimulant medications have been going up and up and up and up. The greater the availability and access to it, the greater the likelihood that it will be abused.
I have friends who have prescriptions and will just not take it because they don't feel like they need it, and they'll deal it to people.
The prescriptions are pretty available and they're out there in the system, so it's ubiquitous. I'm in a hallway of a school and I literally hear a kid say, I have AP US History next period, pass me an Addy.
We have ratcheted up the demands on these kids so much that we shouldn't be surprised when some of them say, I need some help from a bottle, from a prescription bottle.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Doug Brickley. I'm the Student Assistance Coordinator. You kind of met me a couple minutes ago. We had that problem. I apologize for the video not playing. The video that you just watched brings up some ways that students deal with the stress and anxiety that they face in their day-to-day lives at school, at home, and whether that's stress from your family or within themselves, pressures from school, all the different things. We recognize there's a wide variety of issues that people bring to the table and why stress is created within our students in North Allegheny. I'm honored to be able to present to you who our guest speaker is tonight. Christy Knight is going to be our guest speaker. She's going to speak about her experiences and the different things that she knows that help you help your students. And that's really the key part of all of what tonight is we're trying to give as many tools as possible to each of you, knowing that you bring different things to the table. We'll be able to give you tools to be able to help you work with your students to be very successful. I'm not going to say too much about Christy because I know it's a key part of her presentation, but Christy is a well-written author, has co-written a book, is working on another one, has many articles that you can look up. Looking up her name, you can find different information about her and learning about how to help students deal with anxiety, stress, prevention for suicide, and to be able to work through different problems. And when you look at her bio, she has Her goal is to be able to lead us and to be able to get people to help their students through trust and through love, which I think is a key part of everything that's working with all our students. So this time I'd like to welcome Christy Nice, our guest speaker.
As you shared, my name is Christy Knights, and we will talk a little bit more about who I am, what I do, and where I come from. But I want to get started tonight just to do some debriefing on the film initially. What I want to focus on is really the consideration of NA and their mission statement that I have here for you. North Allegheny really does prepare their students for success in a changing world, and what you're finding, just a glimpse in our video, but also in addition to your day-to-day lives, is our world is changing rapidly. So NA participates in these community connections to bring you here and share how we can truly lift our students together as a community, as a partnership. Oftentimes when we speak with our students, we don't know what to say, how they're feeling, what they're experiencing, but yet we feel overwhelmed and want to help them in some way. They're faced with different questions like, I don't know who you are anymore. What is with your grades? You have changed so much. What am I going to do with you? What is wrong with you? What college are you going to attend? What are your grades like? How many AP classes are you taking? What did you do in school today? Who did you sit with at lunch? Are you signed up for sports? How are you volunteering? Get a job. They're faced with many pressures that often we don't even consider. Despite the amount of knowledge I provide for you this evening, or the school district may offer, it will be a complete waste of time if you are not willing to learn how to communicate effectively with your child. We will spend time debriefing the video, but tonight we're also going to discuss how to parent, whether it's Adderall, Ritalin, marijuana, heroin, alcohol, promiscuity, reckless behavior, withdrawal, cutting, burning, cuffing, suicide attempts, suicide losses. Together as a community, we will rise to be able to present to them vulnerable and transparent parents. So as we look at these various ways that our children are struggling, promiscuity, the need to feel accepted, the need to be a part of a relationship so they are not alone. Drug use, such as the huffing. Marijuana use, starting at the tender age of 7, 8, 9. Adderall, the pills. Alcohol, which is the number one. Self-mutilation, whether it's burning or cutting, we're going to address that tonight too. These are difficult images to see. Heroin, energy drinks. These kids bring energy drinks as if it's bottles of water on a regular basis. This is considered an upper. Suicidal thoughts and suicide. All of them have plagued our students, but until you're able to look at these images, experience these images, understand what this means, knowing that this is part of your child's daily life multiple times. Until you can look at it, it's difficult to talk about. So tonight, spending that time understanding that this is what they face on a day-to-day basis, so you have the opportunity to walk in their shoes. True intimacy within your relationship with your children allows them to feel safe. And what do I mean by true intimacy? Oftentimes when we think of intimacy, we think of it within relationships. For our purpose tonight, true intimacy is the ability to talk to your child face to face within a vulnerable spirit. Having the ability to be honest and real with them so they know that you absolutely get it. Within that, they permit your guidance. They develop healthy identities from the poor coping choices that they did once before they come to you, being willing to talk to you because they feel valued, they feel respected, and their willingness to be transparent is more obvious. In those moments, they will share with you the intensity. They will share with you the struggles that they have when they feel they can trust you, when they know that you value them more than social media, more than their friends, more than their teachers, more than the drugs, more than themselves. In that moment, they become transparent and vulnerable to you. But it's only through your ability to have that strength to do it with them. Again, I'm Christy Knights, and I'm sure all of this will absolutely impress you. I've worked very hard to get all of these, right? I'm a collaborative divorce practitioner, whatever that is. I own a private practice for the last 17 years. The founder of and CEO of iRise Leadership, which is my absolute baby, and our mission is to eradicate suicide. So I've spent a lot of time developing this nonprofit. Also, I'm the Vice President of Global Sisterhood. And I have a television show on TV. I write articles. All of that's very impressive. But you know what? At the end of the day, none of it matters really. Yes, it's allowed me to speak with you today. But what's most important is that you know that despite all these titles, I have a stepdaughter that's 13 years old. I have a son who is 14 years old. And I have a daughter who is 15 years old. So like you, I live in the trenches too. And every single time I'm in the trenches with my children, I look at them and think to myself, please, drop to my knees figuratively, teach me. Teach me how I can be the best parent that I can be, how I can raise you to be an amazing person. Take off the mask and allow me to see who I am in the mirror of your eyes. And that's what I challenge you to do as we talk, is to have the ability, whenever there are academic pressures, social pressures, that they come to you. And tonight, I will give you the 4 principles in parenting to be able to build that relationship with your children. So I may have the degree, I may have the expertise, but I come to you tonight also as a parent, as a step parent, because I get it. I live it on a day-to-day basis with you. So what are we going to do? By the end of this evening, what I desire for you is I want you to leave with a way to truly talk with your children. A method of communication that conveys that you absolutely get it, not just do it. I can remember my parents growing up. Oftentimes they would say, hey, look, I'm the parent, just do it. So that type of parenting, although fairly successful, I want you to be able to live that life as an example to your children. Instead of just saying, do it, I want you to get it. Because when you get it, and they trust you in that, the world explodes for them. I can scare you with statistics, which I will. That's part of what we'll do. But true success in parenting is that relationship. And it's not too late. Whether you come to me with a child who is in middle school or high school, whether they have already been in and out of trouble, or perhaps they do not have a social life, or they struggle with anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, it's not too late. It is not too late to parent in a healthy way. It is not too late to bring them back into where they need to be successful and to learn how to cope with depression. As the video indicated, the social and academic pressures are mounting. I believe you and I would agree, it's not the same as when we grew up. It is so different. I can remember the pressure was just to get home as soon as I could so I could play on my go-kart with the neighborhood kids. Am I going to get to dance class on time? Am I going to be able to have my meal in my car and get dressed fast enough? Like, it wasn't about what our kids deal with. I can say no to drugs because they really weren't there much. Not like it is now. On a daily basis, my daughter comes home to me and says, so-and-so asked me for my homework again. What am I supposed to do, Mom? sleep at night? So pressures from that to my son who is on ADHD medication being asked for it. How do we cope? How do we equip our children to be resilient in that? Oftentimes, those pressures are increasing with things like, who's the best dressed? Who's the best looking? Do you have the latest $150 pair of tennis shoes? And how many of those pairs of tennis shoes do you have? Are you in the best neighborhood? How many AP courses are you taking? Summer academic groups, where are you participating? What kind of car are you going to drive? All of the materialism leads to a feeling of unworthiness because we spend all of our time in comparison, creating those social pressures, oftentimes falling short. It's that intense fear of rejection and abandonment that sends our kids whirling into these unhealthy coping mechanisms. So although the expectations for the teens to soar and succeed by other standards, there is little consideration for their true strengths, right? Instead, with our academic pressures, we're actually focusing on weaknesses. Your GPA is not good enough, bring it up. You got a C instead of a B. Or, you know, the reality is in my office, I see kids who come in and say, I got a 90, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna sleep tonight? Or, I wasn't accepted on the playground for these younger kids. Or, where do I sit for lunch? That's a huge one. I sat by myself for lunch. Because I couldn't deal with that pressure, I cut myself in the bathroom afterwards. So understanding what they feel, what they experience in all of that. So we learn to elevate their strengths. Briefly, we'll discuss the 4 coping mechanisms as we've touched on, as well as what the video has touched on. So the video talked about the Adderall, right? And the Ritalin. Some of the other common ones are marijuana. That's most used, heroin and huffing. Of course, the latest and the greatest is the vaping. Vaping has become very common. This type of drug, the kids don't view it as a drug. They just view it as a recreational pastime to avoid the drugs. What they don't realize is that there is an addictive property to the vaping, depending on what you get, and it is a gateway drug to the marijuana, just like the other drugs. So asking those tough questions is really important. Instead of wondering, I wonder if my child is doing it, assume your child is when you pose your question. So how often do you vape? You'll know the answer pretty quickly, and if they're telling the truth. That form of questioning as a parent, when you make an assumption, at times can create some irritation for your child, but it assumes that you know what you're talking about, when sometimes we just don't, because we just don't understand, we're not living that life. Alcohol is number 1, and it continues to be number 1 used drug to escape. The kids are drinking it before school in water bottles. They're drinking it at lunch. They're drinking it on the weekends and the evenings. The average student that I see drinks 2 to 3 times a week in my office. The other area is promiscuity and social media. How often are we seeing young kids in relationships? Younger than they should be in relationships. Not respecting themselves, not respecting their bodies. Check out social media. How often do we see girls in bikinis, guys without their shirts on Instagram, and doing this comparison thing? Or they're snapping their shoes, or whatever else they may have that they feel is acceptance. This is another way that's unhealthy to cope. I encourage you to monitor your kids' Instagram accounts if you don't. Snapchat can be monitored as well. If you need to know how, I can help you with that. All the social media can be monitored in multiple ways. I encourage you to do that. And it doesn't mean you take their phone. I don't do that. I don't grab my kid's phone and say, okay, let me check it. Because I know there's lots of backdoors that I can still respect their privacy and be able to monitor that as a parent because it's our jobs. Because we care. Reckless behavior. Oftentimes the reckless behavior is for attention. You know, being able to fit in. The one that I had seen most recently in my office is sniffing cinnamon because it was cool. It didn't lead to any damage, but it certainly wasn't healthy, right? And you feel sad for the person who needs to do that to prove their acceptance. Withdrawal, anxiety, depression. Anxiety and depression are plaguing our students. This is more and more prevalent. I get asked more often to sign off on kids going into cyber school, leaving school, school excuses because of anxiety and depression. There are ways that we can, as a unit, as a partnership, really work together to look at anxiety and depression for our kids. This is one of the beginning starters that you notice when there's academic pressure, social pressure that is mounting and it is not taken care of. You'll notice your child feeling more anxious, sleeping less, withdrawn, more sadness, less activities. So these are just some of the symptoms you'll be watching for with academic pressure. Self-injurious behavior, cutting and burning, is very prevalent right now. What makes it prevalent is it can be hidden. No one needs to see it. A lot of people don't understand it, so we are going to take a few minutes to talk about that. I felt that we wanted to address two, suicide attempts and suicide losses. I think oftentimes we want to bury our heads and feel like it may not be happening in our community, but that's very untrue, especially in our area, most recently in the last few years. So we see that also as a way that kids are coping is by escaping and thinking it's okay to do that when they're just trying to escape the situation. So I do have some good news for you, which is great, right? I'm bringing all this sad stuff, this challenging stuff. But what we have found in the research is that according to the National Institute on Drug Abuse in 2016, so this is a very current date, for many of the substances this past year, it has actually decreased since 1991. So although we're addressing drug use today, there has been found a decrease in drug use. So I think that's really encouraging that our drug programs have been relatively effective. And as parents, you're doing a good job educating your students because we are seeing a drop in that. So to me, I thought that was some really good news that we could take away, that although our drugs are decreasing, what we are seeing on the rise, unfortunately, is the poor coping mechanisms of self-injurious behaviors and suicide. So let's talk briefly about the impact of self-injurious behaviors. The two most common are cutting and burning of oneself. So as self-injury occurs in private, our rates that we have in terms of evidence aren't necessarily accurate. But what we have found in recent studies is students indicate around 13 to 24% are cutting or burning themselves. Typically, the onset can occur as young as 7 years old. 7 years old. This is first grader. However, most likely, it's happening between 12 and 15 years old is when we first see it. The interesting thing is, if you know someone who is engaged in that type of behavior or your child has struggled with it, most often they've also had suicidal thoughts. And when there are suicidal thoughts and they're able to express that, then it's really important that we're acting. You and I both know, sadly, our local community has had so many suicides over the last couple of years. It's been devastating. Right now, we are at our highest rate of suicide in the last 30 years. It's clearly an epidemic. There are more teenagers and young adults that die from suicide than cancer, heart disease, AIDS, birth defects, stroke, pneumonia, influenza, and chronic lung disease combined. It is the #1 cause of death for children ages 10 to 21 right now. The #1 reason that's reported for suicidal thoughts, academic pressure, feeling inadequate, feeling as if they'll never match up, feeling as if they're not enough, feeling unloved, devalued within their families, lack of time with their families. your children in a healthy environment into a world where they feel loved, cared for, and valued. For that, I am thrilled to share this space with you because it speaks volumes to this district. Each day in our nation, there is an average of over 5,240 attempts of suicide by kids in grades 7 through 12. There are 23 veterans who die by suicide every day. So our young ones going to the military are at a higher risk. 4 out of 5 teens who attempt suicide actually had clear warning signs. So it's preventable through education. And that's another great reason to be able to understand academic pressure and the stressors that your kids are undergoing. See, ignorance is not bliss. When I was growing up, oftentimes it was easier to bury your head in the sand, to turn your head, make an assumption that it's not your kid. But guess what? It is your kid. It could be anybody's child who chooses to use Adderall, the energy drinks, the drugs, anxiety, depression. It could be any of your kids. Look at your person next to you. It could be their child. As a community, you come together and you raise families together. It takes a village, trust me. It took me a long time to admit that it takes a village to raise a child. I'm very independent. But I learned quickly that I need each of you, just as you need each other, just as you need North Allegheny, to move you towards raising healthy children, to manage the anxiety, the stress, to be able to manage the social pressures, the academic pressures. So most teens who struggle don't know where to turn. In fact, even kids don't know how to help each other. There needs to be more education. That's why tonight is so very important. To you and I, it may not make sense. Adderall, Ritalin, marijuana, heroin, alcohol, promiscuity, reckless behavior, withdrawal, cutting, burning, suicide attempts. It doesn't make sense to us. But you know what? It doesn't matter. What matters is that you get it so that you can help the children. Drugs are a problem, absolutely. But each and every coping mechanism is systemic to the pressures they're receiving from every direction imaginable. You and I cannot control society, we can't control schools, we can't control social media, but what you can control is your ability to parent. What you can control is how you talk to your children and the coping skills that you teach them. So, as you can see, I'm very passionate about this topic. I'm very passionate about children. I could go on for hours about various topics that I've already just as the tip of the iceberg. But our time is limited, and I'm not ignorant to know that your time is precious. And I would be amiss if I didn't offer you solutions. This isn't just another run-of-the-mill talk where we raise the anxiety and the stress of parents and release you. But it's about resolution. It's about creating a plan that you can implement so that you feel the hope that you can impart upon your children when they feel buried by the stress of life. Because you've been there. No longer can you stand up and say you don't get it. You're buried at work. You're buried at home. You have multiple stressors, and so do they. So what's the resolution? For me, the 4 points I share with you are basic parenting. This is what I teach within my private practice, and this is what I practice. I'm not perfect. I've made lots of errors. I can remember when my daughter was in 5th grade and she had read a story. If she were stuck on a ship in the middle of the ocean, who would she call? Well, of course I knew it was going to be me. She can rely on me. But as I read the story, I shed tears because Dad wasn't going to help her. He was working too much. I wasn't going to help her because according to her, I couldn't put my cell phone down. relationship with my mom. It wasn't me, and I was jealous and sad that somehow she viewed my cell phone as more important than her. See, you're not alone. I was there too. But I learned through my life experiences the importance of valuing your child, actively listening. We are busy, but your child is worth so much more than your time. So being able to actively listen to what they say, because life is too short. Being able to listen without judgment, without shame. Being able to look at them and uphold them. Knowing that they have a safe place to go to and talk to, so they don't have to turn to friends and social media to cope with stressors at home. We want your space to be safe. Part of valuing them is also checking your ego at the door. How often do we get involved in a power struggle with our kids, or we become too prideful because, you know what, we're right. Well, guess what? Each and every time you're in that moment, your child is a mirror of you, what they are doing. So to emulate to them the importance of valuing them by checking your ego at the door is pretty powerful with these kids. Be honest with your child. It sounds so simple, right? But how often do you catch yourself sugarcoating, censoring what you're going to say, or even lying to protect them? They're not stupid, they get it. They see through all of that. Do not kid yourself. I cannot tell you how many kids in my practice come in and say to me, oh, my mom thinks that I don't know, dad and her are really bad, but I know they're a hot mess. Or mom told me not to worry and stress about college because I'll be just fine, but I know she doesn't even believe in me. I heard her over talking. These kids see through all of that. So it's best to be honest. It's best to be able to say, yes, I struggled too. When my child struggles with his grades and he's in tears because he's frustrated, I look at him and say, dude, look, I had a 2.5 when I graduated high school. That's like unheard of anymore. 2.5, you must have been stupid. Yeah, clearly, 3 businesses later, right? Speaking here. Now, our GPAs are important. Please don't get me wrong. But it's about the intrinsic value to believe in yourself. It's about knowing that you can listen to them and relate to them. When I said that to him, he just kind of melted and was able to talk to me. This promotes trust. It promotes value and transparency in your relationship. It gives you the opportunity to take off your mask as well. For you to be able to put it down and say, I get it. I get you, and you're safe here in my space. When kids think we're perfect, the last thing they want to do is talk to us about anything. So sharing that level of parenting is pretty powerful. Yes, I'm a feeler. I like to give hugs. You can tell as a therapist that I tend to operate in the emotional side, right? But that doesn't mean we don't discipline. Discipline is still essential to parenting. Discipline is necessary, but what I'm going to encourage you to do is how do you discipline? With just authority? Do you discipline with love and kindness? There are times and places for different forms, but there is never space for shame. I have a kid that I work with that when his parents discipline, they discipline very harshly, calling him names, and each time he goes to his bedroom and he counts because he's not worthy, he's not good enough, he'll never be good enough. It could be your kid. Evaluate how you parent. Parenting without shame is powerful. When you catch yourself going into those moments, remember, they're going to look for a way to escape. The other biggest mistake parents make is lecturing. We want to go on our tirades to make sure they heard, but guess what? They've checked out after the 3rd or 4th word. It's pointless. Short bursts to the point. You know who communicates most effectively this way? Men. Observe how men communicate. They use few words, right? There's something to that. It's much more effective in parenting. That's why we always go to daddy. Wait till daddy gets home, because it's effective parenting. So moms being able to remember to use short bursts of information without shame. Without shame. Think about how you feel being shamed, whether it's by your spouse or by an employer. So that part of parenting is essential, to remove the shame. Remember too that as you discipline, you're building morals and values. You're building up their self-esteem. So it's important to remember how your words will affect them. So I've got this piece of paper, and this is your child, right? This is your child, all sweet and happy. Now, when I wrinkle it like this is your child, broken and sad and pressured and tired and unable to sleep and anxiety. And every one of those wrinkles, is something you've said negative to them. The pressures they've been put on them. Can you get out all these wrinkles? Can we flatten this? So what happens? They put on their mask, and they don't hear you, and they can't speak to you, and they say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And you become frustrated and angry, and you shut down. They shut down, and then they turn to uses of other drugs and other ways of coping, and they give in to the pressure, and they turn to social media. Number 4, teach your values. So this seems like it would be a no-brainer, right? We're just going to teach our values. You teach them growing up to say please, thank you, open up the door kindly for other people, be generous, give in acts of kindness, right? But what we find is parents are great those first few years, and then after that, guess who gets to teach your kids their values? Social media, teachers, friends, everybody but you, because life's busy, caught up in it. So teaching your values is really important. This allows them to have an identity. When your child has a full identity, which happens between the ages of 13 and 15, they are then able to make a decision between right and wrong. They are stronger to stand up to those social pressures when they've developed an identity. The only way they're going to develop a strong identity is through your life lessons, through teaching them their values, through uplifting them. So they're not turning outside the home to find their worth and their value. Yes, we can hang our medals and we can tote our GPA, but at the end of the day, if your child is anxious, depressed, and suicidal, does any of it really matter? So you see why it starts with communicating. Once you've mastered communicating with your child, mastered meaning you're willing to try it. Once you're there, then academic pressures, social pressures, alcohol, drugs, sexuality, all of these are understood. You can see the signs because you have an intimate relationship with your child. You value them for who they are, so it doesn't matter their GPA. It doesn't matter what college they go to. It's about their intrinsic success and who they are and being happy with who they are. Because when they're happy, they'll go to any college they want to. They'll be successful when they have their identity. When you have taught them those healthy coping mechanisms, there's no reason to turn to the negative. You have given them a gift. You've imparted very vulnerable and transparent parenting. You've been honest and real with them. They know that you love them for who they are, not what they bring home, nor the achievements that hang on the wall, and they can be real with you in those moments. So, 4 points, 4 parenting tips. They seem simple when we write them out, but I get that they're difficult. It's time consuming, it's exhausting, I know that having 3 of my own children. At times I slip up, but it's a nice guiding principle, so whenever it goes off the trail, you know where to go. This water bottle is driving me crazy. I keep bumping it, I apologize. You know where to go. So now we're going to take some time to do some questions and answers with some of the other staff members. NA is an extraordinary district, that's why you are here. And you are surrounded by incredible people like this. What I want to encourage you to do with your questions and answers, please don't worry about if the person next to you is judging you. Do not censor them. Feel free to ask. I'm not afraid to answer any question that you've got. Anything. If you want to ask privately, I know there's opportunities that you can meet with the counselors, right? To be able to speak privately if you're not comfortable asking your question. But that's what we're here for.
I'm going to ask 2 of our counselors, actually the counselors who work in this building, to come up to the stage and help with this segment. Really, we want to open up the floor, if you will, any questions that you have pertaining to the video, pertaining to anything Mrs. Knight's had to say here tonight, and through the group of us, hopefully we can get those questions answered. So Darla and Lynn are going to come up here as well and help with this. So Doug is in the crowd there. If you have a question, please raise your hand and Doug will find you and we can do this. I would be surprised if others didn't understand where you're coming from there. But there's no easy answer to that. I'm looking at my counselors here. An 87% where I came from was a B, and certainly not failing. I think it's, Christy was saying, it's systemic. It's just the way society is these days, where the pressure is so much to get an A in everything. It's not just here, I'm sure. You guys have anything you want to say?
I mean, I think we see it even in middle school, I'm sure elementary school as well. It is the perfectionism. They're striving they're up against their peers. What did you get on this test? I think it's pervasive. No matter if it's Nash or middle school, and we try as counselors to, I know even when I'm working with my 6th graders this year, I ask them what their goals are, and all of them, I swear almost every one of them says straight A's. I'm like, are B's okay? And I always ask, are B's okay? Because I worry about the kids that say no. And so trying to get them to understand that B's are okay. That's good. And I think if they get that same message from at home and at school, I think that can ease their mind a little bit as well.
Agreed. I do think also that it all has to be taken into perspective too, that kids, you can have 300 kids in a grade level and they all have different abilities. Not every kid can put forth the same amount of effort and earn straight A's. Are there some kids who can earn straight A's with ease and not putting forth a lot of effort? Yes, but as they get older and to the higher grade levels, the expectations change and they get higher, it's harder to maintain that. So I think when kids are accustomed to going through elementary school, getting straight A's, it's much more difficult making that transition to middle school and then high school and expecting the same results with the same amount of input, where, I know I have a high school student, a child myself, and I struggle with, is he putting forth enough effort? No, I can tell you right now, he's not. and the results show in what he's getting out of it. Do I know that if he put forth more effort, he could get straight A's, sure, but I also don't want to sacrifice his activities that make him who he is. I don't want to sacrifice his social relationships who help shape him into who he is. So it's all a balancing act. I think that you have to look at your child as a whole child and not just as a student. And I know that you all do that, and that's why you're all here, which is great, and that's why we have the tremendous kids that we do, but it's finding that balance and having reasonable expectations for your kids. Not always expecting the moon and the stars and saying it's okay tonight to not do that extra hour of studying because you haven't slept 8 hours in a week, you know, and they need their sleep. They need all of those things to be healthy individuals. So it's a balancing act.
And just to take it a step further, whenever you're having that conversation, let's play it out a little bit, right? So your child comes home and says, what?
Oh, I'm failing at life.
I'm sorry?
She'll say I'm failing at life.
You're failing at life. Well, what makes you think you're failing at life?
I mean, yeah, because, well, I got an 87 on my chemistry test, or,
Yeah.
you know.
So what you find is whenever you say, well, what makes it important to you to get the 90? You know, it may be, well, so-and-so did. So now you've just opened up a nice conversation about self-esteem and self-development that can be really used. You know, this is all really important, and I agree. I think it's that balancing act, but I think too, let's do some repair work as well. So whenever that conversation happens, you're doing some healing of the self-esteem while you are validating what they're feeling.
I mean, maybe it's just me, but you're sort of swimming upstream, because, you know, even though I've been saying that for years, I'm against, you know, 1,000 kids in this school district, you know, counteracting my thought process, which is very different. You know, I'd rather be able to see and, you know, enjoy life a lot than get straight A's. But I think I'm one of the minority.
And what I can promise you is that as you continue to improve your parenting, you'll see those fruits of your labor as time unfolds. Because I think that you bring up some very valid points. Thank you.
You have another question back there?
Hi, this is a question for the high school counselors. I was wondering what North Allegheny offers or how is it structured within the district. How do you identify kids who are at risk of severe depression or anxiety? If there are informal or formal ways of doing that, if there's, you know, I don't know, peer reporting going on, and how do you handle that? When do you contact parents? And also, what are the resources that North Allegheny has internally, and which resources do they tap into in the community? I know some of the districts that are neighbors with us, they have, for example, the STAR program from WBIC going weekly to the buildings. I was wondering if there's something there in the high school level.
You ask a lot of very good questions, and really what you're describing is the essence of the student assistance program in the school counseling departments. We do everything working together from helping our teachers identify students who are struggling, and then encouraging and instructing the teachers who are really on the front lines, so to speak, to let those concerns be known to one of us. And so that's a way we can identify, just keeping us forming relationships with our students the best we can, relying on teachers to do the same, and then when a student, you know, is struggling, connecting with parents, offering support in the means of if there's academic help that we can connect with, or someone to talk to, someone to connect with in the building, outside resources. You mentioned the STAR, you know, the STAR Center. We're connected with many resources, you know, therapists like Christy and many other therapists in the area, connecting students there. So the questions you're asking are excellent. That's what we try to do as part of the school counseling and student assistance program, is identifying students who need the support and then offering it, understanding very much that working with parents is extremely important. you know your child more than any of us, and we need to work together to do that. Part of the student assistance program is collaborating with agencies to bring in extra support when that's needed. It's a big task in a big school district, but but it's an important one. We do recognize, from the very top of the administration, Dr. Scheer spoke to all the employees at our startup kind of in service. There's so many great things going on with our students, but we need to be looking, and we are looking at some of the things that are stressing them out, and realizing that those things need to be addressed as well. So, I can go on and on, but I hope I answered at least some of your question. And I don't know if our middle school counselors want to speak to that as well.
I would like to just for a moment, actually. At the middle school level, we also see, mental health issues coming up as well, anxiety, depression. Teachers obviously get trained on looking for behavioral indicators for some of those issues. We do have a student assistance program here as well, where if, say, a teacher says, this kid just hasn't been themselves lately, their grades are dropping, they're not participating in class anymore, and you look for maybe a pattern of behavior rather than just one indicator over a period of time, we would certainly get in contact with parents and say, hey, we've noticed some changes, what have you been seeing at home? Whether we work with them at school through the counseling office or offer our student assistance program. One of the nice things about the student assistance program is we do have a behavioral health liaison that works with each of the middle schools. Engelmar's happens to be from the Staunton Clinic, and we are able to ask parents for permission for that liaison to do what we call a screener, and they use the screener that they use, I'm probably giving you more information than you want, is called the CANS, and it is the Child and Adolescent Needs and Strengths Assessment. And what it does is it helps to identify what specific areas this kid may be struggling in, whether it's anxiety, depression, which are very closely related, academic pressure, or maybe things going on in the family, any type of thing that they may need some support with. And the parent can choose to sign that, yes, they allow that liaison to share that information with the school so that we can better work together as a team, or they also have the option of saying, thank you for doing the screening, please do, but please do not share the results of that with the school, which is fine as well. The liaison then looks at what the needs are of that student and will communicate with the family, and they will determine what the best services are for that child and their needs, whether it's outside counseling, in-home services sometimes can be provided depending on the need. So there are systems in place. Is it a perfect system? Probably not, but we do realize that kids often do put their masks on even at school and try to get through without being noticed, but we do work very hard at identifying students who are struggling and have some barrier to their learning, whether it's a social, academic, or emotional or mental health barrier. It's the reason we all do what we do. We strive to get every kid and help every student, and we hope that we're doing just that through the services that we can provide.
Another thing I guess a couple other things I want to mention. Somewhere in your question was mentioned of peers coming forward and referring. We encourage that. We encourage that more than ever, and they do. I said, the teachers are on the front line. It's really their peers who are really on the front line, and we worked hard to really make that acceptable, make sure that that's understood as that's not tattling, that is responsible and mature and very courageous reporting of some serious matter. So it's very similar to whenever someone sees bullying, we're saying you need to come forward and help us know what's going on so that we can reach out for help. The other thing at the secondary level, all the middle schools, NAI and NASH, there are support groups that are offered, and stress management is basically the undertow of all those support groups, one way or the other. Of course, a lot of students, you know, it's voluntary, of course, but and we don't get to a lot of students, but the students who do enter those support groups, we're teaching them coping skills. We're giving them tools that they can use, healthy means of coping with stress that isn't going to go away ever, but you know, find ways to deal with it in healthy and safe ways. So through the school counseling office, student assistants, and the behavioral health liaison that we have, you know, we do our best, and the support groups are you know, that's one of my favorite parts of my job is seeing the students support each other in that type of environment.
If I can just add real quickly, the school counseling department is actually under curriculum review right now, and you'll see, I believe we present to the board sometime in January. A lot of recommendations are going to come out of that review of reviewing our programs and reviewing the services that we provide to students. So a lot of recommendations are going to come out of that. They don't happen overnight. It's a process, but you will see that some of those recommendations will certainly be increasing the social emotional learning for students starting, you know, from when they enter school, and developing mindfulness and having that holistic approach to teaching a child is definitely more of a trend because it's the healthiest thing to do for our kids. It's the healthiest thing for us to do, and we forget to take care of ourselves sometimes, and we are better able to take care of our kids when we take care of ourselves. So we have to remember to do that as well.
We're starting to get a little bit short on time, but I do want to put my glasses back on. Doug, is there another question? Or does anyone have another question that they'd like to raise publicly? And again, we'll be here afterwards as well. Sir.
Yeah, I have one. I've got my oldest graduated from Nash last year, and my second kid started in AI this year. So I've been really appreciative of the support and, you know, the opportunities that the school district has provided to the kids. I mean, you guys have done a great job there. But one of the areas I wanted to feed back to you that I think challenges particularly the juniors and seniors is there is a lot of pressure on the kids in Nash about what school they're going to, what university they're going to. And some of that is driven, quite honestly, by the teachers, by the school district wanting to collect information. You know, there's all kinds of surveys that you have to fill out about where are you going, where did you apply, what school, you know, what scores did you get, all this kind of stuff. And I know you've got like scattergrams, like I just went to the presentation at NAI about the new online thing where you have, and you can see how your kid stacks up against all the test scores and everything. And, you know, so I mean, my oldest graduated, you know, and she had some challenges between 10th and 11th grade because she really felt a lot of peer pressure from her kid, you know, cohorts to basically keep up with the Joneses and stay in all the honors classes and take all the AP classes, and, you know, which didn't work out very well for her. And when she finally got to the point where she was able to accept, I need to take classes that are best for me and not just what everybody else is doing, things went much better. But she felt a lot of pressure as a senior because, and she told me, she shared with me that a lot of the teachers really put pressure on them about asking about in class, what school are you going to? Why are you going there? You know, one of her teachers even said, well, why? She's going to CCAC this year. And, you know, she felt a lot of pressure from a couple of her teachers about, why are you going there? You should be doing better with yourself. And it was kind of surprising to me that a teacher would be doing that to a kid. And, you know, it's kind of interesting because she told me on the first day of school at CCAC, she looked around and there were like 70 kids in place that all graduated from Nash with her, but nobody wants to admit it when they're seniors because they feel so much pressure.
I don't know if anyone wants to, you know, I guess, comment on that. One thing that I will say is that, you know, I can't speak for any of the teachers, but whenever I get a student's ear and they mention CCAC, I commend them on a choice that, you know, could be for a number of reasons, but there's so many students who don't know what they want to do, don't know what they want to study. Economically, it makes sense. And as I understand it, I don't want to speak, out of turn. It's one of the more common places for our graduates to go. They're going to a lot of four-year schools, but CCAC, I guess it's safe to say, is more common of a destination for our graduates than a lot of people think, for a number of reasons. And I always make it a point to say, that's your plan, that's awesome. It's sad for me to hear that there's, teachers who are given the opposite message. I don't know if anyone else wants to make a comment. I mean, you guys are in high school, but
Yeah, I
what's
mean, I would
going
say
on.
that even in middle school, when we start talking to the kids in 8th grade about scheduling for high school, we absolutely tell them, you do not need to take one single honors class to be successful. You're going to hear in the hallways the kids that are talking about the honors classes, but there's a whole lot of them that are not taking honors classes. We even try to use ourselves as examples because we were North Allegheny graduates, and I will tell them, like, I didn't take any honors classes. I was successful. I went to a good school. So I think they hear it in the hallways and they hear peers talking about it, but they need to know, and we're giving them that message that they don't need to take honors classes. They don't need to put that extra pressure on themselves, but still they're doing it. They are hearing it. They're hearing it in the hallways. They're hearing it in the community. So I know here at Ingomar for sure, we do not give them the message that they have to take honors classes to be successful.
We do obviously share with them that they should take the courses that challenge them, but they can be successful in. We don't want kids to take to bite off more than they can chew, and then feel stressed out and overwhelmed and not be able to have a well-rounded education. So it is this balancing act. But we also tell kids that if you want to go to college, there is a college out there that will take you. You don't have to have a 4.3 grade point average when you graduate from North Allegheny to get into college. If you want to go to school and pursue a college degree, which we even tell them isn't necessarily the right choice for every student either, then there is a place that will take you to not stress about the grade point average and the course load that they're taking. So somebody had their hand up.
First of all, I think this is a great program. And my question is there some sort of assembly or some program for the students similar to this that would be tweaked toward them, coping mechanisms, that getting 87 is great, something for the kids, because I think a lot of them that really need the help are not the ones that are going individually. So maybe as a group type of assembly, did you ever consider something like that?
I know those types of things occur at the middle schools and NAI. Nash doesn't have a lot of full group assemblies. Mr. Brickley's sitting behind you. I don't know if he wants to mention anything at NAI. But yes, we do take opportunities to discuss these matters to the whole student body to give a similar kind of message. Lynn, Darla, I don't want to speak for you, but I just know that there's a lot of good things going on.
At Nash is what I was talking about.
Nash is difficult for a number of reasons to do full group assemblies, but so the time I've been there, about 14, 15 years, that hasn't occurred in that kind of regard. Try to find other means to get the messages out. There is another question down here. I don't know if you want the mic or.
Yeah, I think the crux of a lot of this comes down to this word in the mission statement, which I assume the students see quite frequently, which is success. And so this whole concept of, well, how do you define success? And there's this conception of, well, successful constitutes going to an Ivy League school or something like that, and obviously we all realize that that's not the case. So the question is, and dovetailing on some of the other comments, I think awareness and having dialogue with the students, sort of the rank and file students, not waiting until it becomes a crisis for a particular student to come to a counselor individually, but basically having this open dialogue about, well, what constitutes success? You know, how do you define success for yourselves? And then also maybe holding up some real world examples of both people that they actually know, like maybe their teachers or school administration or local government officials or whomever, and also maybe some more widely known people who, hey, look, these people, here's their real world background. They weren't academic all-stars necessarily in high school or whatever, but they became very successful and found their own path. So can something like that be done to kind of bring some realism, reality to students' perspectives on what success is and how to get there?
I think it's a great idea and something that taking into serious consideration, something that we can talk about. Absolutely. Maybe one more question for the group here, and then we'll a couple things to wrap up. And then if you do have other questions, please feel free to come down afterwards.
I commend everyone, like from a guidance counselor standpoint, in the sense, I feel like you have my child's heart in the best place right now, because I do think you're looking at from a holistic standpoint versus maybe all at the middle school level, you just hear about testing. That's what the kids talk about. Now we're taking some kind of test complete that's being graded and everything like that. And also from a school district, really promotes, as a school district, I think it's very prominent in this as far as test scores, because it cross against the other school districts, which is fine. I do think there's an issue as far as when the kids hit the intermediate school and honors and AP are being offered and they're allowed to do it. Like they can take a full boat if they want to. Is there any kind of consideration as far as maybe not letting them take 4 honors courses or all the AP courses? It's not that they can't do it, they'll do it, but what they're killing themselves basically to get through that sometimes. And I think that's kind of one of the issues I struggle with, is that I know she can do it, there's no question, but she's doing 4 hours of homework at night, and that might not be the healthiest thing for her.
Doug's going to comment to that, Mr. Brinkley from NAI.
Your question reminds me of a couple things, and I think the toughest part is the balance. And I think it's the balance of, we want to be the best school district for your kids. We want to be great. I think a lot of our kids are the same way. And we're ones, okay, we have students that feel pressure. We have students that are overwhelmed by all the different demands we talk about, social media, all the different things that go in their lives. And I think that the toughest balance for us, and that is as a parent or as somebody that works with students every day, is how much to push and how much to provide and to find the balance for them. And the perfect example I have of that is one of the parents that I know very well called me, said, "You've got to talk to my son, who's going to be a junior. You got to talk to my son. He wants to take 4 APs. He's going to take the 4 APs, he's going to participate in 2 sports, and he's involved in a bunch of other things. It is going to be too much for him. I've talked to him about it. Would you talk to him?" Absolutely. Had it all in my mind, exactly what I was going to say, your mom's worried, all the different things. I went and talked to him, and talked to the student. His answer was, "I'm going to Princeton. Like, I'm going. I'm going to find a way. If you could be there to help me in everything I can do, please be there. But I'm taking the 4 APs. And now he's feeling some of the pressure, and we're trying to find ways to help, because that's the tough balance is, we want our students to have every opportunity. And this is now a kid, he's like, well, maybe we'll go to Princeton, we'll go to Cornell. He's got opportunities, he's being successful, and he's trying to find ways to deal with all of those things so that we can have students that deal with the pressure and overcome the pressure and go to Princeton to be a doctor. So I think that's the tough balance, I think, from the school district and from somebody who works. And that's, a kid that mom called, please talk him out of this a little bit. And his response was, I'm going to be able to deal with it. And he's being successful. So it's like that balance of not providing help along the way, but also providing the honors, the AP, all the different things for students, so that, because like a school we in Princeton or another, they're not changing their admissions to get those students in. So that's a tough balancing act that I see very common, with kids. We don't want to we don't want to hold them back, and we want to provide as much help as we can. And then the reality thing is each kid's different with each of those different things. So, you know, talking to the people at the school about how your son or daughter deals with it and how the problems they're having. So, and then each family's different. So how do we help each family be successful is really a key part of it. I know from working with students at NAI and then going up into Nash.
First off, I want to thank everyone for attending. I'm going to do the closing remarks. Christy, I want to thank you for coming out and sharing your expertise with us. I'd also like to thank both Doug and Jeff who organized this event this evening. Also to our North Allegheny staff members, Lynn and Darla, thank you for coming out. And we have members of our principals, administrative staff, executive council here that came to support the event, and I want to thank you all for attending. And especially I want to thank our parents who took the time out this evening to share with us and listen to our topic of conversation. As we shared this evening, teenagers like us may experience stress every day and can benefit from learning stress management skills. We know that teens experience more stress when they perceive this situation as dangerous, difficult, or even painful, and they do not have those resources to cope. We discussed this evening some of those sources of stress, which included those academic demands or the frustrations, the negative thoughts and feelings about themselves, looking at problems with friends or social media, separation of divorce or even parents, which we really didn't even talk about, death of a loved one, taking on too many activities, taking on too many AP courses, family financial problems. We know some teens become overloaded with this stress, and when this happens, we need to teach them how to learn and cope with that stress. What we don't want to see is looking at those poor coping skills, such as turning to drugs and or alcohol use. As we discussed tonight, as parents, you can assist your teen in many ways. Please monitor the stress if it's affecting your teen's health, behavior, thoughts, or even feelings. Listen carefully to your teens and watch for the overloading. Learn and model stress management skills. Support involvement in those sports and other pro-social activities. Jeff had talked about those tools to take action handouts. Please review those this evening. I also wanted to share with you that there is a resource that we did not put on the PowerPoint, but it's called the Parents Toll-Free Helpline. This is a nationwide nationwide support service, and it's able to provide for you to talk with a specialist to talk about whether your child has drug use or even drinking. The contact information is 1-855-378-4373, or it would be 1-855-378-drug-free. As we are aware, life brings stress. It's how you handle the stress that makes all the difference. By using some of the techniques we talked this evening, you as parents may support your teenagers to begin to manage that stress. As a final thought, as you leave this evening, in the words of Mr. Rogers, in times of stress, the best thing we can do for each other is to listen with our ears and our hearts, and to be assured that our questions are just as important as our answers. Please remember to complete the evaluation using the URL that was handed to you this evening. That's on this one sheet, and that's a little code right there. We would also ask you to complete using that code or the link to provide the feedback. Your feedback is important to us. This is how we look at the topics that we present to parents, and that's for future planning of our Community Connections seminar. I want to thank you all for attending this evening, and have a great evening. Good night. And if anyone has additional questions, please come on up.
type in this tiny URL right here, you can do the evaluation very, very quickly from your phone. We'd appreciate all your feedback.